An Arizona woman vanishes without a trace.
This is obviously a monumental tragedy for Kelly's family.
An Arizona woman vanishes without a trace.
This is obviously a monumental tragedy for Kelly's family and her loved ones.
But within days of being reported missing, the suspect in the crime turns out to be someone very close to her.
It's either he just couldn't live with himself after what he had done, or they came to him and they said, listen, we need to find her body.
On June 30th, Daniel Paduchowski reported to police that his wife Kelly never returned from her run and swim. But according to police, the report was made to throw off investigators.
On the evening of June 30th, around 8 p.m., the defendant in this case and the husband of Kelly, Daniel Paduchowski, called the Flagstaff Police Department Communications Center to make them aware of his wife being missing in the area of Lake Mary. And she was supposed to be on a run and swim in the area. This statement was later discovered to be an attempt to misdirect police resources. Kelly's family was able to locate Kelly's vehicle at the Campbell Mesa Trailhead, which is located on the opposite side of town, approximately 3 hours from the original call from Daniel.
Investigators say cell phone data from Kelly Paduchowski's phone placed her in the area of a local trail shortly before 10:30 a.m. on June 30th. And Kelly's husband Daniel was placed in that same area around 11:30 a.m. Flagstaff PD says around 12:13 p.m. Kelly's phone traveled back to their home. Then her car and her husband were seen at the Campbell Mesa trailhead about an hour later at 1:30 p.m., just 6 hours before Kelly was reported missing. After what was initially thought to be a disappearance, a massive police manhunt ensued.
A search and rescue operation immediately commenced, which involved nearly 50 search and rescue members from the Coconino County Sheriff's Office and the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office. This operation included ground searches, mountain bike searches, search dogs, drone technology, and the Department of Public Safety helicopter, all in an attempt to locate Kelly. There were approximately 60 registered community members who registered with our search and rescue team to attempt to locate Kelly, and countless other searchers from our community who were out trying to search for Kelly this entire week.
Police say within 24 hours of Kelly being reported missing, their missing persons case would turn into a homicide investigation after making a discovery at the Paduchowski home. As all the pieces would come together, investigators suspected that Daniel Paduchowski was responsible for his wife's death.
We asked our community for information about Daniel or Kelly and their vehicles on Sunday, June 30th, and we were able to build this case based on Flagstaff coming together as a community and giving us great information and evidence. Our detectives were able to leverage technology in this case, which matched the multiple witness accounts of Daniel's movements on Sunday, June 30th. Earlier today, and sadly, our detectives learned of Kelly's location, and we also discovered critical items of evidence in this case. We regrettably learned that Kelly had been a victim of homicide by her husband Daniel, which pains each and every member of this organization and community.
The 58-year-old was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. While authorities kept tight-lipped on a motive or what led to the killing, court documents detailed more. According to KPHO TV, neighbors reportedly heard a scream and saw Kelly lying face down in the couple's yard as her husband was on top of her. The documents reportedly describe neighbors later seeing Daniel spraying down that same area with a hose, and investigators later found fresh blood at their home, including bloody footprints on the patio, blood by their garage, and noticed Daniel Paduchowski had recent injuries on his hands and knees. Then another surprising twist. Daniel Paduchowski would cop to the crime, admitting to the slaying of his wife, then striking a deal with prosecutors by pleading guilty to the murder.
I think he mobilized all this, and then he realized that what he was doing was wrong, and he decided to come clean. And that's just that happens sometimes. I mean, there are criminals with conscience.
During the press conference, Michael Tunick explained Paduchowski now will serve more than a decade in prison for the horrific crime.
Earlier today, we reached an agreement in which the defendant, Daniel Paduchowski, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, tampering with physical evidence, concealment of a dead body, and possession of dangerous drugs. This agreement requires the defendant to serve a 16-year term in the Arizona Department of Corrections, which is the presumptive sentence for second-degree murder under Arizona law. Defendant must serve every day of this sentence and is not eligible for early release of any kind.
Well, these things happen. I mean, sometimes people's remorse after they do something like this is so great that they just want to get it off their chest, and they want to tell them where the body is and where to find everything. And it's kind of unclear if he had a lawyer when he was going through this process. Now, they did negotiate a second-degree murder with 16 years, which is what's called the presumptive in Arizona. So, I mean, and maybe they had a first-degree murder case, and maybe this was a good deal for him.
Arizona-based criminal defense attorney Dwane Cates explains there could have been different reasons Paduchowski pleaded guilty and confessed to the murder.
Yeah, it's one of two things. It's either he just couldn't live with himself after what he had done, or they came to him and they said, listen, we need to find her body. We need to have, your kids need to have closure. The families need to have closure. Help us do that. And in exchange for doing that, we will cut you a decent plea deal. And that happens quite a bit in homicide cases, more than you would think.
Under Paduchowski's plea agreement, he had to provide authorities with information about where his wife's remains were located, as well as provide details about other evidence, including her cell phone, car keys, and weapon allegedly used to kill her.
Defendant further agreed to an interview, which was completed this afternoon. In that interview, he answered all questions posed about the sequence of events and about his actions on June 30th, 2024. This agreement is the culmination of many hours of work between Coconino County Search and Rescue, Flagstaff Police Department, and the Coconino County Attorney's Office. We appreciate the thorough and really exemplary investigation done by the Flagstaff Police Department and the Coconino County Sheriff's Office, who also assisted with us. And that investigation really made this resolution possible. This is obviously a monumental tragedy for Kelly's family and her loved ones. We've been in close communication with Kelly's family throughout this process about this resolution, which we pursued to bring finality in a situation that has weighed heavily on this community.
Well, as far as the time goes, Arizona always has a range, okay? And the range for second-degree murder is 10 to 25. And there's a thing called the presumptive in Arizona. So when a judge looks at a case on sentencing, they're supposed to start at the presumptive and look at aggravating factors and mitigating factors and see whether they go up or down. Now, in the plea bargaining process, you can stipulate to a certain number of years. Now, a judge could, at sentencing, look at this and say, I'm not going with this. I don't like this plea. I'm going to throw it out. And if they did that, the case would start over again. But usually the presumptive is the starting spot. And it's what they agreed to.
Cates explains despite the wide-scale search for Kelly Paduchowski, it's possible she wouldn't have been found for a while if her husband didn't confess.
When he reported her missing, and they were out looking for a live person. So they mobilized everything they possibly can to try to go find somebody. And that's what they were doing there. Okay, they weren't out looking for the killer. Okay, they were out because they didn't know there was a killer. They didn't know if she slipped and fell or got attacked by a mountain lion. They don't know what happened to her. So they're out trying to find her, and the friends and family and search parties, and that's not unusual for that to happen. Arizona's full of wild animals, so had he not, coyotes or bears or anything could have come up across the body, and she may never have been found. Okay, I mean that happens in the woods. I mean, there's some pretty thick forest around Flagstaff, and like I said, we don't know for sure. I saw mentions of several hiking trails. Okay, so I'm assuming that there was one there. This probably would have taken several months to resolve. I mean, before they charge somebody with murder, they generally want to find a body, because prosecuting a murder case with no body is difficult.
At this time, Kelly Paduchowski's exact cause of death remains unclear. Daniel Paduchowski, who pleaded guilty to charges including second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and concealment of a body, is scheduled to be sentenced to the 16 years without parole on September 10th. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.